Hello everyone, I have just read chapter 11, 11, on the last of the Jedi secret weapon. So we're back with Bog Dominion, and I actually wasn't expecting to go back to Bog at any time soon. But we went back to Bog, and he's bouncing about in his chair on a Rosha, in his office on Rosha. It's a little indulgence he allows himself when he's alone, and I find it ever so funny because you think of this big political figure doing this childish thing, and I find it hilarious. And he thinks how he's here, he can't believe it, he's here ruling a system. And of course it's a very small system, but it's in the core and it's a start. And he looks out to the city with all the smoke, and we're told that he's already had plans to rebuild the city, but actually, in reality, he had someone get in contact with someone to rebuild the city. To do it. As it says, it was worth nothing to the Emperor in the state it was in now. Rosha had the technical expertise that was sorely needed by the Empire, so he would have to get it back up to speed. He couldn't risk losing this position. He knew the invasion hasn't gone well. It had been a bit heavy-handed, but all in all, he was doing well. Very well. And as a cloud passes by his window, he sees a reflection of himself and he's absolutely horrified at his face. Because he thinks, I'm looking old! He sees his cheeks starting to droop, he sees shadow bags under his eyes. Well, shadows under his eyes. And he thinks, and he knows that, of course, politics makes him age, and I think that's something that's fairly known. I could be wrong on that, though, that politics do make you age faster. There's a lot of politicians out there who look a lot older than they actually are. But, he thinks that he can't afford to look old, and that he'll have to find some time to tighten up a few things soon, and sneak away to do that. And he swivels back and forth in his chair, and his happy mood's kind of been flattened. Because every time he feels like he has his hands full of witches, he's reminded of something he doesn't have, and he's plunged back down into unhappiness. And we're told it's a lonely feeling, and he blames Astri because he had a family, and from his perspective, she stole it. And he thinks that Astri had won, how he's won the political game, but Astri had somehow outsmarted him and spirited Loon away. And we're told that he had spies working for him, trying to track her down, but she'd simply vanished. And he has no doubt the Sumerian resistance had some involvement with it, but of course we know it's not the Sumerian resistance, it's Ferris's crew. And then he picks up the communications for Sano Solo. And we're told that Solo has messed up so badly, he has been demoted. He messed up so badly. But he thinks that, but it says, but Bog has learned never to kick down the ladder that had boosted him to the top. You never knew when you needed the ladder again. And Solo takes the communication immediately, which Bog finds quite pleasant, which I think is very ironic because of the games Bog plays. He makes people wait for him. Even in the last book, he has an officer or an assistant speaking to him over the communications just as he was about to get in the shower, saying that Solo wants to speak to him, and Bog says that he'll speak with him soon, and the officer said Solo won't like that, and Bog says he won't. So I find that quite ironic. And Bog likes that now he's an Imperial governor, he won't have to scrounge for attention. And we're told that Solo's still a senator because he's still going to vote for stuff that Palpatine wants him to vote for. So he's still quite useful in that, but a lot of his high positions in committees, heading the powerful committees, are pretty much gone. And he's no longer a known politician with Palpatine's ear, and he's now pretty much just in charge of the Imperial Navy Academy. And to Bog, that's quite amusing, because in his eyes, that makes him a nursemaid. And anyway, they start the call, and Solo asks how the governorship is going. And Bog can hear his jealousy, and it says he thought he was smarter than Bog and would rise faster under the new government. What he hasn't valued was Bog's gut instincts. That made him smarter than all the rest of those know-it-alls. And Bog says it's coming along nicely, and he's trying to unite the planet and get them on board with the Empire, and he says it's a busy time, and Solo says, let's go, so of course. And Bog asks about the projects they got, which I assume is, of course, I assume has some relation to Astri. And Solo says that he's been able to tap into the SAM database. And Bog asks what the SAM database is, and we're told what it is. And I'll just read it out. I'll just read out what Solo says. Suspicious movement, acronym SM, nickname SAM. Stormtroopers and spies patrol Coruscant and keep their eyes open for suspicious activity. Do spot ID checks. It also goes on within worlds occupied by the Empire. Governors set up the program. They also go into one database and are cross-referenced and cross-checked. Then the head security officer decides on surveillance. I have clearance for the database now, and I thought you'd know about Sam. Bog. And Solo very much is making sure to keep saying Bog to make sure he's affirming that they're still work associates. They're still associates. They're still close associates. And he's leaning on his name for that. Bog just wonders if he could ask Solo to refer to him as Governor. Which again, Bog's ego. And Bog goes, oh, of course, I just didn't get the lingo, the dialect. And Solo goes, right. And he says that he's got reports coming in daily and he goes through them personally. If he's got any leads, he'll tell Bog. And Bog kind of asks how he did that, because he thought, wouldn't enough your clearance been bumped down to 0? And Solo says, this is a naval academy. I'm still heading the search for any Force Adepts to join it, because I completely forgot about that, honestly, that he was searching for Force Adepts. And I guess, that makes sense. If there's any suspicious Force sensitivity going on, we can get them. And he says that, and we're told that he has a valuable friendship with Hydra. I wasn't expecting Hydra to get mentioned again. And Bog's completely baffled by that, and it says, the new Grand Inquisitor? How had Solo managed it? He wasn't a guy you'd want to spend time with. Yet he managed to collect more favours and alliances than even Bog, which was one reason to keep him happy. And Bog says that, alright, keep me in the know, and he'll pass on what a good job he's doing to Palpatine. And we're told that Bog doesn't usually speak to Palpatine, but he's sure he'll speak with him more now that he's governor. And Solo says that his generosity's always been overwhelming, and Bog feels flattered even though he can't be sure if Solo's actually being serious, and I have the feeling Solo isn't. But Bog says that he knows the galaxy, that Solo knows the galaxy. It's a big place, and they've got to keep each other in the loop and help where they can. And Solo says he'll be in touch. And Bog immediately rushes to end the call himself. He wants to be the one to break the call. And the thing is, Bog, this chapter is just such a child. He's such a child in this chapter. And it's hilarious to me because he's this politician. But he then stabs a button for his assistant. And asks him to find out why the SAM program isn't on Rocha. And it already has been, and it's just in all the and it's just a notation buried in all the reports he keeps meaning to read. And then it says, until then, he had Solo on the line. And I'm not quite sure what the context says meant to be with on the line. Is it meant to be on the telephone thing, is it meant to be he's got Storlo in danger, you know, I'm not quite sure what it means in that context. I assume it is telephone. You know, I assume that's what it is. But, again, I don't have a whole lot to say about this chapter, aside from Bog is quite funny in this chapter. Particularly at the start. It's so childish and it's funny to me. Because, again, he's this politician, this governor of 2 whole planets, a whole system. And you see him bouncing in his chair, swivelling back and forth, being the one to want to end calls first, just to assert his dominance. You know, it's a hilarious idea to me, and it's something that feels like only Bog could do. You know, it's the only thing. It's like this is something that only Bog would do. What else? What else can we talk about here? Again, I completely forgot about Sano Storlo having the Force Adept thing going on. And I was actually quite surprised that Hydra was actually referred to as Grand Inquisitor, not just Head Inquisitor, or Head of the Imperial Inquisitors. Because so far, that's what the Grand Inquisitor has been referred to for the past 6 books. Now really, only in Underworld, Maloran was referred to as Head Inquisitor in Underworld, and then in Death on Naboo he was referred to as Head of the Imperial Inquisitors. So you know he's most definitely Grand Inquisitor. But we have it mentioned again here as Head Inquisitor by Dex, and then she's actually referred to as Grand Inquisitor. So it is a bit. So it does take you off guard a bit. Because you're expecting Head Inquisitor or Head of the Imperial Inquisitors, but you're not expecting, Grand Inquisitor, because that's not what they usually refer to in these books. So that took me off guard quite a bit, and I am a little bit disappointed that we haven't had confirmation as to whether Hydra is female or not, because again, there's a whole. If you watched my previous video review, you know I was talking about how I was completely caught off guard at Hydra being referred to as he, him, because Wikipedia brought me under the impression that Hydra was female. And you know, there was a talk thing on the talk page going on that Hydra wasn't male, she was female. And again, I did say in that review that maybe it's just Dex presuming pronouns, you know, but it does disappoint me that we didn't learn if Hydra's female here or not. But, especially because, you know, her name, or his name, is mentioned, but it's not her. So, but, yeah. I don't really have anything else to say in this chapter. I wonder if the suspicious movement stuff, though, if that's... I got to spoil myself. Again, I got to stop looking at Wikipedia. But I spoiled myself on Loon getting captured toward the end of this book. And apparently Orion somehow finds his way off the asteroid to Coruscant for no reason. He just somehow appears there in the story, so I got that to look forward to. I've already been trying to wrap my head around the freighter. What else can I say? Actually, I should tighten something, shouldn't I? What else can I say? Where was I? Yeah, I kind of spoiled myself with Orion appearing later on. Just out of the blue somehow. Like, he just doesn't even get to, Coruscant, he just appears there. He's like, hey! So that's gonna be fun to try and wrap my head around. I'm already trying to wrap my head around the crew, so how am I meant to wrap my head around Orion's involvement? I just hope it's like, is he there to deliver a few lines? He doesn't have, like, proper full involvement. Otherwise it's gonna be like, oh no. But yeah, anyway. I think that will bring the end to this review, so thank you all for watching, and goodbye.